Hello, everyone, faithful listener. We're back with the podcast today, but I got a special guest. His name is Hunter Hancock, aka Meat Canyon, aka Papa Meat. I just watched your latest video on the main Meat Canyon channel.
Yeah,
and it's with the Costco Guys or whatever. Is that what they're called? The Costco Guys?
Yeah. We're Costco Guys.
It's Big AJ and Big Big
it's
Justice.
It's AJ and Big Justice is the
Big Justice. And then it ends with spoiler. It ends with go stop this video right now and then go watch his thing on Meat Canyon. But it ends with because that's the thing. I was watching. I was like, fuck, I hate these guys. I'm such a bigger Rizzler fan. You know, like I love the Rizzler way more. Everyone loves the Rizzler more because he's adorable. Yeah. And that fucking video of him in the Black Panther costume is like one of the funniest things I've seen in my life.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's unfucking believable. I had no idea. I had also people were correcting me today. Apparently, AJ and Big Justice, that's not even a father-son duo. I had no idea.
Are you kidding me? It's just some guy who pals around with some little kid.
It's apparently some Italian man hanging out with a morbidly obese child. So I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how they got. Apparently, I didn't do enough research when doing the video. But I was just like, oh, it's probably a father and son, cute Italian couple because they look similar. I mean, I don't know. They don't look like totally opposite. You know, just kind of like big juice head Italian man with his like kind of like overweight son that he loves, whatever. That's what I expected. But no, people are like, he's not even his kid. So I had no idea. So that, kind of ruins the video a little bit. But, what do you do? Still, I think it still has a place in people's hearts.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, you making that assumption, I think, is absolutely understandable. I mean, what the hell else are they going to be? Oh, I guess they're just friends.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you justify how that friendship started, or like, I just don't know, especially to like start a whole like catastrophically successful online brand with this child that's not even related to you. It is crazy. Maybe he's his uncle. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just see in the comments when they're like, yeah, it's even more fucked up that he's not even his dad. I started reading that. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. I
can speak for everyone when I say it better be his uncle,
I think they got to, it's gotta be, right? I just don't know what, like, cause I feel like if it wasn't that, I feel like especially nowadays, people would be more up in arms of like, what the fuck is this man doing with this child? Like going to like Chick-fil-A and like screaming in public restaurants about like booms and dooms of whether they like these deep fried chicken sandwiches or not.
Oh, is that what they do? They just go and fucking make a big scene and shit?
Well, yeah, they like go in. He's like, we're Chick-fil-A. We're going to give it a boom or a doom. And then he eats the sandwich. He's like, oh, that's great. That's a boom.
Wow.
They do this at a public place. Yeah. And then even the guy comes in, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, that's a boom. And he's like, it's fucking absurd. It's crazy. It should be illegal to do this shit. Is what it feels like.
I guess that's just what everyone's doing though now. In this, like that's kind of the sense I get. Like in the States, like everyone's trying to, get some of that TikTok money or YouTube money. Just like create their like we can all be celebrities. And all we have to do is just do the shit that we normally do, like go to Costco. You try to make that illegal. I mean, that's like trying to take cigarettes away from condemned prisoners. It's just a bad idea. There's going to be a revolt.
Yeah, it goes through the weird stuff. I mean, I can't blame it. It's my fucking livelihood. So, I mean, I don't blame him. I'm just, you have to have the perfect storm, though. Like, I don't think anybody could just go do this. I think it's like the perfect combination of just like weird shit where it's like uncanny fat child with large, like animal eyes that he never blinks. And then just like large beet red gorilla, Italian gorilla, just like screaming into the phone about Costco products. Like, it's like, who would have ever been like, let's upload that?
I wonder what his dad is really like. Like, I wonder if his dad is just sort of like a meek, sort of like, like a guy who works at like a fucking, like a DMV, just like filing shit in the back or whatever. Like he's very meek, like not the same kind of robust kind of gorilla that
AJ is. Yeah, no. I hope I hope the dad's either dead or in prison. Because that's the only way that this feels like it would be like, well, what father could sit idly by and just have his son be a part of this circus, this parade?
Yeah. My dad actually was a cop, but he had to go to jail because he shot a kid, and now now he has to smuggle in a cell phone for his cellmate in his ass.
Yeah, I have to text him on his roommate's phone because he killed a guy on a bike when he was drunk driving and he's on the job. I miss him.
Who's that guy? Oh, that's Daddy's roommate. That's Daddy's friend. That
makes so much sense too. If his dad was like an either deceased or imprisoned cop, and his name is Big Justice, is poetry. It's poetry. I think every lawman should name their child some kind of like Big Justice, like Sword and Shield, or just something like into like defense like that. I think that'd be nice.
Marshall's a good one.
Marshall's a good one, and that's practical.
Yeah, it's just like a regular old name, but that's actually Sword. Like naming your twins Sword and Shield is pretty off the cuff. I got to say that's a pretty cool idea.
Which one's going to be the Shield? Is obviously going to be the loser kid, right? You can't have two winners, I don't think.
Well, I was just thinking like there would be fraternal twins. One would be a girl and one would be a boy, and I would go with Sword for like the girl. Because it's what you wouldn't think, because the sword is phallic, it's like, oh, what, you're naming your kid after his dick? What, are you some kind of pervert? You're gonna go do fucking smuggle a phone up your ass? Okay, listen, let's get off this topic. We're giving the Costco guys too much fucking
too much front time. Yeah, no, that's true.
So let's move on. Hey, have you seen Alien Remulac yet?
No, I've only seen what people have been saying about it online. Did you see it?
Yeah, you know what? It came out like early in Taiwan. Instead of coming out on the Friday, it came out on the Thursday. And I saw that. I randomly went to the movie website, to the theater's website, and I saw it was playing. And I was up at like 6, and I saw the first showing was like 10:30 a.m. And I was like, oh, if I go to see it at 10:30 a.m. today, maybe I'll be the first one in the country to see it.
In the world to see it. Yeah.
Who's not like an influencer. So I did that, and I ate breakfast, and then I just like went over there and I just watched it by myself in an empty theater, completely empty theater, and there
wasn't one other person in at the show.
No, it was 10:30 in the morning, and like people, you gotta understand. I live in Taiwan, and people don't give a fuck about like they care about like Wolverine and stuff, and like because like. Okay, at this one theater I go to, it's like they got one big, normal, sort of American-sized and style theater, and then everything else is like sort of your like medium-sized theaters, like the ones that aren't so great. And they had Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine in the large theater, and that's going to be there, for months or probably 2 months. And then every other movie is just going to get all the medium-sized theaters. So obviously, Alien Remulac is going to be in the medium-sized theater, so that just goes to show, the value, like sort of the value that's attributed to this film. Nobody they're like, yeah, we like Alien, it's pretty cool and whatever, but like honestly, it pales in comparison to a genuine Marvel film. Anyways, yeah. To answer your question, it was just me. No, not even one other person. Wow. Okay. That's kind of cool. It makes you feel like it's one big room at your house. You get to watch it in. Is it Alien Romulic, or is it Romulic or Romulus? I've been saying Alien Remulac by accident, so I just started saying it on purpose. Okay. Remulac is the planet that the Coneheads are from. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. But, okay. Did you like it? No, not really. I've actually kind of been rattling it around in my head, and I think that the whole point of it, and I think that this was sort of came from the Disney brass, is like, okay, so what we want to do is we want to take Alien and we want to rebrand it for Gen Z and below, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. We want to make it for younger people. So in addition to making the cast younger, we also want to kind of treat it maybe with more sort of like treat it with the language of video games a little more, and also like tone down the violence. Like I think that toning down violence and toning down like excessive, let's say, gratuitous content, for lack of a better word, is a big fucking indicator of like sort of Gen Z targeted content. Just because, and you know this better than anyone else, just because you're a YouTube guy, and YouTube is like, I mean, it's basically setting the standards for media. Like the YouTube stock terms of service are basically the MPAA now, you know, because YouTube the motion picture industry relies so much on YouTube to sort of advertising and sort of, you know, to sort of get the word out that, and people make, you know, they watch, just like games, right? Like people will watch the movie and then they'll like, hey guys, I just saw Alien fucking Remulac and we're going to fucking, you know, talk about it today. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to make a video because there's too many things to blur. There's too much, like what happened with The Sadness. That's something that I know firsthand because of, you know, some people just weren't making videos of The Sadness because they just had to go through the trouble of like blurring shit out and making stuff black and white all the time. So it's like, it's just in your best interest just to make something that across the board can be shown without any kind of censorship and can be talked about without saying grape or smexual schmalt or whatever,
right,
whatever the words are. So I don't know. That's my theory. I'm sure that I'm not the first person who said that, but that's the way I perceive sort of the direction, the trajectory of content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're probably right. I don't know. I've just seen people say it's pretty lukewarm. I haven't had that much hype around Alien. Obviously Alien 1 is obviously good. It's one of those films where it's just like, I feel like it's a sin to say you don't like it or whatever. And I know it's good, but dude, ever since like, I don't know, the fucking second Alien versus Predator, I don't feel like I've ever given a fuck to watch any of that stuff. Like I don't really, I watched Alien versus Predator 2 and I'm like, what the fuck am I actually, what am I doing? Like I already have all the Alien content I need. And I know people like, my wife really liked Prometheus and
girls like that
stuff. I just couldn't fucking, I couldn't, I just don't care. I just don't care enough about it. And I'm also not a big sci-fi guy either. So that's another reason why I'm just like, it never appealed to me as much as like other kind of like, I don't know, other body horror alien stuff or other monster movies.
Seems to me like Alien Romulus is your thing, man. Seems like this is the one for you.
This is going to be right up my alley. The only thing I was stoked about was I kept seeing videos of the dudes who made, because they made like the face huggers, like practical little robots. And they put these like really cool, like this like wheel system underneath it, and you just controlled like an RC car, but it looked awesome. It was like like on the ground, it looks sick. I was like, that's tight.
Well, they did those for Aliens, like the 1986 one, right? Like that's an old school. Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I actually believe that because I saw the film and like, come on, guys, like, you know, who are you kidding? Like I can see these fucking. I can see these things are not being done with practical effects. They're being done with CG. I think that that's a big thing that movies will do. It's like they'll make that fucking little RC thing, and maybe they will use it like for like a 2-second shot, but really it's made just so that for the, you know, the quote unquote behind the scenes thing, so they can be like, look at this fucking thing, and then it's like everyone's like, it's practical, dude, and then. You know, that's the word on the street. It's like how much practical effects got used in this fucking thing. But I mean, you watch the thing and it's just as much CG as anything else. Oftentimes, like, I mean, they did that with the Barbie movie too, right? Like so much of that shit was shot on blue screen and green screen. They show the behind the scenes, but they're actually doing special effects and putting in the sets and making it look like they've actually built a lot of this stuff. But in fact, it's like it's just all blue screen and green screen. So it's like, you know, they're doing fucking VFX for the behind the scenes to make it look like they've shot these on real sets, you know, and it's just kind of like sort of like a meta. I don't even know. Listen, man, I just woke up in the morning. It's 9:00 here for me. I don't know how to fucking articulate myself all that well, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like there's this whole other like layer of production here.
I gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Anyways, so yeah, fucking.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. There's so many of those studios. Some of those studios too. It's all about like how do you get a viral clip going, and then also how do you have content for socials like verticals and stuff to engage people and get hype around stuff and build all that stuff, because that's the only shit that sells tickets now. It has to go viral on TikTok or else it's gonna flop.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, I mean, I don't even know what that means. I can barely get my dick vertical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, mine's never been able to. Never gone straight up.
Yeah.
Never could.
Yeah.
Wish you could.
All right. Well, I'm gonna edit down that fucking silence there. That joke bombed pretty hard. All right. So let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's get past that. All right. So Alien Romulus is not something we can talk about. Shit. Well, this is ostensibly a movie fucking podcast. I mean, what's the last thing I saw? I watched a movie last night called Play It As It Lays, which is a Frank Perry film based on a Joan Didion novel, and it's about a woman who is married to a director living in Hollywood, and the director is spending all his time working on films and doesn't pay attention to her, and she ends up spending all of her time with this gay fellow who's played by Anthony Perkins of Psycho. And oh, by the way, the actress is played by Tuesday Weld. Anyways, you ever seen that before?
No, I'm looking at it right now though. I have a 1972 film. No, I haven't seen it. Is this is it kind of under the same vein as like a Graduate kind of thing, like a coming of age movie?
No, it's
kind of vibe.
It's
looking at the stills.
No, it's much more like I actually would recommend to you to watch one of two movies by Frank Perry. One of them is called The Swimmer. I think that's starring Burt Lancaster. And then the other one is called Last Summer. And Last Summer stars Barbara Hershey and two guys who you'd know them if you saw them, but I don't know their names, but they're very, very young. Like it's like the president in the very first X-Men movie, the one that was directed by Brian the pedophile singer, and then also the guy who plays Bill Denborough in the 90s Tim Curry It, the guy who plays like the main guy, but they're both like teenagers.
Oh yeah, Richard Thomas he rules. Yeah.
Richard Thomas, is that his name?
Yeah, the guy with the mole in the It movie. Yeah, he's cool. He's also in All Is Quiet on the Western Front. I think it was like a straight to TV adaptation of that, and it was really good. I liked it.
What year would that have been in? That would have been in like the 90s or 80s?
Definitely 90s. Yeah, probably I think it was maybe a little before It or something like that. The only Fred Perry movie I ever saw was Mommy Dearest. Remember, my mom had that shit like with the DVD and everything, and we watched the fuck out of that.
Yeah. So you're very familiar with Mommy Dearest.
Oh, yeah, big time. My mom used to, we made a meme. We had wire hangers in the house, and every time she did laundry, shouting it through the house, whatever, scared the hell out of you. She gave one hell of a performance. That movie rules. Yeah,
well, why don't you, I've actually never seen it. You should tell me and the listeners what it's all about.
Mommy Dearest is, I'm pretty sure, Faye Dunaway. I'm pretty sure it's Faye Dunaway is anyways, Faye Dunaway. It's about an actress who's I think she's kind of past her prime, and she has these children. She's kind of I feel like I want to be a mom, right? So she starts getting children and stuff, but she's just emotionally and mentally just so self-obsessed, so I guess vain, that she takes all of her frustrations out on these children. And it's kind of from the perspective of both. It's kind of from the perspective of both the mom and and her first daughter. And as the movie progresses, it kind of follows more of the daughter and how the effects of living in that crazy environment affected her, and how her always wanted to kind of live up to her mom's status as this big movie star and stuff. But it's just an emotionally draining movie. It's almost a horror film at times. It's pretty brutal. I remember when I was a kid, the scene of her, the no more wire hanger scene just beats the hell out of these kids. It's pretty crazy, but the performances are just so bombastic and loud. That's one thing I love about old, I feel oldie 70s into early 80s stuff that I see a lot, which I know, makes me sound like a young idiot, but I love how theatrical old movies are, very loud stage play, actors who probably spent the majority of their time actually doing stage plays.
Yeah.
So all their movements are very big and they're loud and stuff. I really love those kinds of performances. It's those always stick with me a lot more than a lot of the more tame, I don't know, Woody Allen kind of approach to some of those older movies, but like
a slice of life, a kind of more realistic kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel I think about a lot of the stuff from when I was younger, of growing up, and all of the slapstick comedy stuff. it doesn't feel as good. It feels like very disingenuous. Like it doesn't, like, I don't know, not disingenuous. I guess it's just like, it doesn't feel like I'm watching a good actor. It just feels like I'm watching something stupid.
Right.
Or whatever. But then you have stuff like a Woody Allen slice of life, which is fine, but I don't like how, I don't know, meek and real it is. Like I kind of want to, I like the performance. Like I like feeling like I'm like, oh wow, this person, it's like very larger than life. And when I see Woody Allen, I just like, it just, I don't know, if not, boring is the wrong word. I just doesn't feel as memorable to me, which is probably like once again, but
that was kind of I guess a sort of a movement or whatever. Like, I mean, you got like John Cassavetes, you got fucking Robert Altman, Woody Allen, also like just sort of this sort of understated, as we've kind of been putting it, slice of life kind of style. But then like, me and Johnny Ryan have been doing this little show, the one that we're on right now, this podcast. And last time we talked about a film that I had never seen before, which I would recommend to anybody, called Scenes from a Marriage, which is an Ingmar Bergman film from 1974, I think. And this movie is actually unique because it feels it's so screenplay heavy, or not screenplay heavy, but screenplay forward. Like it's entirely dependent upon the strength of this screenplay and these two performers delivering dialogue, because the entire fucking film, and the film is 5 hours long, is
God damn,
fucking just an argument. It's just an argument between a husband and a wife. It's basically over the film chronicles their divorce, and there's actually a theatrical version that full disclosure, I haven't actually seen the 5 hour version, and I was admonished and scolded by Johnny for not watching it. But I watched the theatrical version, which was cut down to 2 hours and 40 minutes long, which is long enough for me. I don't got fucking time to sit down and watch 5 hours of anything, you know?
What the fuck do? Watch people scream for 5 hours? God damn. Clean it up a bit. Yeah, I mean, we don't need 5 hours.
Well, here's the thing, is that, like, I at some point I probably will go back and watch the 5 hour one, because, like, the dialogue in this movie, and Johnny has said this in the last episode, but like the dialogue in this movie is second to none. It's so well written, and it's so like the arguments evolve so in such a realistic and interesting and a manner, and they unfold and they reveal things, and then where do we go from here? And it's really great writing. Like if you want to learn how to write, I think that this is a pretty. If you want to learn how to write dialogue, this is a pretty essential thing to watch. Scenes from a Marriage, and please do not confuse it with I think the 2022 HBO
the 2021
version.
show.
Yeah,
like The Show or whatever miniseries.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, the original one, the 1974 one, was serialized on Swedish television as a show, but then it was, I guess, someone was like, hey, we should bring this on the road. We should take this to Cannes Film Festival or whatever, but it's a show. It's not a movie. Okay, well, we can edit it into a 2 hour, 40 minute long movie. So, and I think, to be honest, they did a very good job, because me and Johnny were able to talk about it, without missing a beat, as opposed to, like, say, for example, the film Nymphomaniac, which I forget if you liked or disliked that one. You liked that one, right? The Lars Von Trier Nymphomaniac?
Yeah. That's probably my favorite Lars movie.
Yeah. So like, there's I guess like a cut version of that, and that's the one that Johnny saw, and we were trying to talk about it. It's like, remember the part where she gets those African guys, and she gets fucking double penetrated by those African guys? He's like, what are you talking about? They just go into the room, they argue over which one gets the asshole, they can't decide, and then they leave. And I'm just like, no, dude, they fuck her. They fuck the hell out of her. And he's like, that didn't happen. And I'm like, yeah, it did. And there's basically all this to say, there's a version of Nymphomaniac out there that's just been cut to shit, and it's not well labeled. It's just sort of like, oh, this is the movie, and then,
if I remember right, I remember on that, I feel like on the Blu-ray cover or whatever, it's like in the thinnest font director's cut, right? And I think even like on Netflix and stuff, all they had was the director's cut. I don't think I've ever seen like the non-directors, because each one I think is like, they're both like 2.5, 3 hours long, both parts. It's like a 6 hour long experience or something like that. But yeah. But no, I can't imagine seeing that movie and not seeing both of those men yell at each other and have her like awkwardly get up and leave after you just see her asshole and pussy get completely stuffed and destroyed. It is too. That's a part of the movie too that's fucked up, because I'm pretty sure that's whenever like she's like leaving her house, she's like leaving her baby in her house so she can go get fucked and have her fix. And like her husband's just like, what are you doing? Like, where the fuck are you going? Yeah. She's like, no, I can't do this, and just leaves. Yeah. She's like the worst person. She's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's an nymphomaniac. She's a fucking through and through sex addict, you know. But the reason why I brought it up is just because like the only point I'm trying to make is that the cuts that were made to scenes from a marriage, I don't think affect the overall impact of the film. I think you're just kind of losing sort of like a little bit of connective tissue, but like the main thrust of the arguments are still there, and like the important stuff's still there. Whereas in the cut version of Nymphomaniac, you lose so much of what, like you need the shocking parts in order, because it's not. Nymphomaniac was censored. It wasn't cut for time. It was cut for content. Whereas scenes from a marriage was cut just to sort of make it brief, cut for brevity. So that's really the difference. All I'm saying is that you can get away with watching scenes from a marriage, which is on YouTube also, as a matter of point. Anyways, let's get off this fucking topic. What else do we have to talk about? Well, we mentioned Lars Von Trier. We've discussed before how you don't like Lars Von Trier that much because you think he's up his own ass. Let's talk about that.
I like and dislikes movies for a lot of probably very stupid reasons. Like I was going to say, just to go back to Woody Allen, whatever. I made it a stern choice in my life to be like, I have nothing I want to do with this guy, right? I'll never want to watch it. People are like, you got to watch Annie Hall. Not going to watch it. Don't care. And I'll tell you,
no, I hate Annie Hall. I love Woody
swear
Allen,
by Annie Hall, but I refuse to do it. And I remember, why it was. It's very petty. I was in a store when I was younger trying to pick up some Dragon Ball Z DVDs, and I walked past this DVD cover, and I was like, this is one of the ugliest covers I've ever seen in my entire life. I hate this. Who is this? And I looked at it, said Woody Allen, and I put it back. The cover was Midnight in Paris, and I said, no, thank you, sir. And I said, ever since then, I said, never going to watch anything he does. And then it just turned out to be a guy who's made 7,000 movies or whatever. So then now, out of spite, which there's probably a couple that I'd like, honestly. But out of spite, it's been going so long where I'm like, I just can't. Midnight in Paris is one of the most egregiously bad covers. And I refuse to acknowledge it. Same way with Lars Von Trier. It's just Lars Von Trier. I like a lot of his stuff too. Like I like a lot of the Nymphomaniac is probably my favorite. House that Jack built. While I don't think the execution
hold on. Before you get into why you hate Lars Von Trier, okay. Let me just say to you that I'm gonna give you a very soft volley of a Woody Allen movie that you can watch. And here's the thing. He's not in it.
I'm not going to watch it.
He just directs it, though.
I refuse. I can't do it. You have no idea the amount of people that have recommended Woody Allen to me over years and years. And you know what's fucked up too is I was literally a guy. I forgot even what movie it was or something. I don't know. He releases a movie, like 3 movies a year or some shit. But my buddy was like, I'm going to go see the new Woody Allen movie. I'm like, I hate that guy, whatever. And then I had no idea about all the allegations against him and shit. I was on HBO and I just saw that documentary, the title of a documentary about some crazy shit that he did. And I was like,
now I have a reason.
I was like, what do you do? I said, Midnight in Paris is all I said.
Yeah.
Midnight in Paris. That's all I had to say to myself. I just kept scrolling. Well, there you go. Midnight in Paris. What do you do? Also, I don't hate Lars Von Trier. I don't know.
No, hold on. Stop. I'm recommending this movie, whether you like it or not, to the listeners out there, to all the listeners at home. If you hate Woody Allen, if you don't like his little fucking sniveling, terrible voice, and his little stupid face and his little fucking spindly body, you don't have to look at him. You just have to watch a film that he made called Match Point. That's the one to watch. That I think will get people into realizing that Woody Allen is actually a very accomplished and competent, obviously, and brilliant, let's even say, director. Match Point. It's an awesome sort of thriller with Scarlett Johansson that came out in I think around like 2009 or maybe around
2005.
Is that right? Okay.
Is what it says here.
That's the one. If you're going to watch one, it's the least Woody Allen feeling film, just because he's not in it. But that's the one. It's absolutely riveting. And then after you watch that, if you like it, the next step after that is Crimes and Misdemeanors, which is one from the 90s. And this one, I believe, is sort of Match Point is sort of almost a remake of Crimes and Misdemeanors. But anyways, so that's Rob's recommendation if you want to get into Woody Allen.
He looks he looks kind of like if Stephen Hawking had sex with Bill Gates. That's like that's the human that would have been made from that the kind of offspring.
I think they did actually have sex at one point, those two.
I hope they did. If Stephen Hawking never got that disease and he could walk, I mean, he would look, I mean, it's almost identical. It's almost like you got a little bit of Scorsese in there too. Sorry, go ahead.
So, I was going to say, did you ever think, like when you were a kid, that the reason why Stephen Hawking was like that was because he was so smart? Like
no.
I thought that for the longest. I thought that for the longest time. I thought that, like, oh, okay, the reason why this guy is like that is because all of the juice went to his brain. You know, like all of his like vitality went to his brain.
Yeah, all of the life source. He came out a slug, and he just sat in a chair like a slug forever. No, I remember I was more cold and cruel as a child. I remember thinking, because I remember I saw this video of him, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" He's like, talking to his robot voice and stuff, and then he was like drooling. And I was like, why the fuck is he drooling? I was like, is it like what the hell's it like? Guy can't be out there dabbing in the corner of his mouth. I mean, he was just like strands of saliva like a bloodhound, just like talking about the universe. I was like, this is disgusting. And I went over and looked at some stuff, and then he's floating around in zero gravity, and he looks like a fucking like a scarecrow, like a floating scarecrow. And I was like, get this. And he was drooling in those pictures too. I was like, what the fuck? I was
the
like,
drool
put some
fucking
cotton.
Floating around with like zero gravity.
There's water bottles and cameras floating around. And you just see like big goblets of shiny drool. I was like, put some fucking cotton in this guy's mouth or something. I'm like, I don't know what the hell he's been doing before. He's salivating like crazy. But no, Lars Von Trier.
Put a pillowcase over his head.
Yeah, put a pillowcase over his head. Lars Von Trier, I don't hate him. I would say at any point, even in Lars Von Trier movies I roll my eyes a lot in certain parts. In House that Jack Built, whatever. I love the concept of following a serial killer who has OCD. I think that's really, really fun. And I like the way that he edits it too. Like whenever he kills somebody, he like pictures the scene of somebody like uncovering something and he like missed a spot he didn't clean. I love that. He like goes back, he has to clean this thing like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But then of course, like you're like, oh man, this is really good. Matt Dillon, who the fuck even still casts Matt Dillon? You know, I mean, he's doing great. Love him. And then all of a sudden, it goes into the Lars Von Trier part where then it cuts to black and white to that guy playing the piano, whatever, and it's just like, you see, it's just like a lighthouse. Oh yeah, how's it like a lighthouse? You stack the brick, and he's like, I get like he's talking about the meticulousness of how he's even building his own house, like the parallels or whatever. But in every Lars Von Trier movie, there's always something like that. There's always some moment where. That's absolutely true. In every movie, in Nymphomaniac, it's the fucking guy. He's like, it's like what the fuck's his name? He's one of the brothers, his dad, Skarsgård. It's a Skarsgård guy. He's like, you're just like a parryfish. And she's like, what's that? And he's like, a parryfish, you have to use a certain lure and you cast on the water. You're like, oh my God, just fucking move it along, Lars. Good God. I'm like, we get it.
Well, things
are similar.
Those are two different things. I mean, like you're talking about like one thing where the movie like shifts in tone and there's sort of like this imaginary like guy with the piano. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it feels actually what people's what people who've never seen an Ingmar Bergman film feel like an Ingmar Bergman film is like, where it's like all of a sudden the film stops and all of a sudden a guy's playing chess with the Grim Reaper on the beach, you know, and it's, oh, this is symbolic, you know. It's like, no, that like for example, like, you know, one of the ones that I like, the recent ones that I like is I really like Melancholia. I really like this one called Breaking the Waves. That one's fucking sick. Skarsgård's in that as well. And these are just, and I mean, of course, there are sort of these weird sort of cinematic style shifts that happen in that movie Dancer in the Dark, where it's like, when she's singing, they do it like a musical, and when she's not singing it, they do it like, shot on video type shit. I mean, that movie, that's a fucking movie that, I mean, it's the epitome of a tearjerker. It's like designed to make girls cry. It made me cry when I first saw it too. I watch it now and I kind of feel like I see beyond the tricks. And then what's another one that I really like? There's definitely another one. The Idiots. Do you ever see that one called The Idiots? Where it's a bunch of people there. That's actually why you mentioned the first one was the first one we mentioned was Nymphomaniac, but the one that you started mentioning before was The House That Jack Built. That's actually one that I dislike just because I feel the content is so boring. Like just the idea of like a serial killer is just, it's such like mom content. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, like a serial killer. Like they're like how much, like what a common fucking theme for just a movie to be about, whereas like all like Lars Von Trier films are like, oh, what if there's a woman who fucks up her own marriage because she's a malcontent, and then all of a sudden there's a planet going to hit the earth and destroy it. It's like, are there any other movies like that? No, there's not. Similarly, pretty much every other one, like Breaking the Waves is one about this guy who starts dating this like mentally challenged girl in, I believe, like Ireland. And he's Swedish, and then he ends up just their relationship is very sexual. Like it's almost like he's just fucking her a lot, and he is in love with her, and she's in love with him, but she's kind of fallen in love with him, maybe in a sense mistaking sex and like kind of intertwining the two and not really differentiating the two, which is not something that's wrong at all. But anyways, he gets injured in an accident, and he can't move below his neck, and he encourages her to just go out and have sex with strangers for him, and but she's kind of mentally disabled, so like it seems almost like exploitational on his part, like he's doing it like that's the interesting thing about the movie, is that his motives are kind of like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Does he have her best interest in mind? Because he actually is putting her into like a dangerous situation of just going out and just getting fucked by like just meeting weirdos on the bus and having sex. Hey, let's go have sex. Like it's a really fucked up, weird movie. A very, in a sense, you could even look at it as being like a very cruel movie. I think that a lot of critics took it that way and labeled it as that. But sorry, and The Idiots, and I'm done with this one. Then I'll you can sort of volley back to me. But The Idiots is about a group of people who pretend to be retarded. They go out in public and they just pretend to be retarded, and they basically act like AJ and Little Justice. And they just cause big fucking scenes in the in like restaurants and like at like public pools and stuff, and they do this to. At first, it's hilarious. Like they're just these people causing these big scenes, pretending to be retarded in public, and then you realize that there's actually sort of like a philosophy behind this, and it has to do with sort of getting back in touch with being like being a child, or getting back in sort of shedding sort of inhibitions and kind of just being like your real self, like being your inner idiot. And they encounter this woman who's in sort of a tepid kind of abusive relationship where she's not getting like her ass kicked, but she has a very like unengaged husband who doesn't really respect her or talk to her or even look at her, and she feels isolated in this marriage, and she's sort of this sad woman trying to enjoy her life. It's actually just, this character is really heartbreaking. She's great. This movie's, the acting in this movie is so great, and then she ends up getting brought along by this group of people who habitually pretend to be retarded, and then she just starts to become retarded too, and it's like, it's is there any other movie like that? No, there's not. And that's what I love about Lars Von Trier, is that he comes up with these weird ass ideas and he takes them right to the limit. He exhausts the idea. So everything that you could possibly, well, what if they did this? Well, they go and they do that, Well, what if they have an orgy? Well, they're going to do that too, And are they going to pretend to be retarded? You bet they are. And it's just this kind of thing. So I just think the guy's got a great imagination, and I think he's also a great filmmaker. And I agree.
I mean, I agree.
Well, there we go.
I agree with all of that. I'm just saying in the middle of it, people are acting retarded, and then like a guy in like a sailor outfit stops him, and he's like, "You know what you're doing reminds me of how they made chocolate in Rome." And then they're like, "What?" And he's like, "You see, they pour the cocoa bean," and they go into a whole stock footage of a guy grinding up fucking cocoa beans or something like that. Yeah. When I'm like, just show me the retarded guy. That's all. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna picture it. You're dribbling. You see, you dribbling reminds me of the sap that's in a tree or whatever is what it feels like. And the thing too is like I love almost all of the, and I don't know if I necessarily agree that like the theming of like a serial killer is like boring or whatever. I mean I just like the idea of like you can give me whatever, I just want it to be like fun. And I agree. I think the house that Jack built, whatever, was boring, and they had like all these really good ideas and thoughts to it, but it never really like accumulated to anything where I thought it was satisfactory, or it doesn't go as hard as like Antichrist or any like all these other kind of like movies that he has.
It just feels like I'm not learning anything. Like I mean, a better film that does exactly the same thing is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like, I mean, I'd much rather watch Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer than watch The House That Jack Built. I mean, I'm sure.
Or even like Man Bites Dog kind of thing is like a fun, like that's another one. I think it's the idea though. It's like I like those films, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Man Bites Dog, and it's the idea that I guess like to see Lars Von Trier's take on that is cool. But then it's just I don't know, kind of cringy moments. Like the part where I was like, oh, man, I like holy shit. I was like, oh my god, dude, this is so cringe. He like cuts off that girl's tits and he like puts the boob on the windshield, and it's like Matt Dillon like walking away. And then and I was like, oh, look at that. And then of course the next beat is the fucking guy on the piano. And I was like, I grabbed this pillow and put it on my face, and I was like, get me out of this hell. I was like, please.
For the listeners out there, Hunter has mimed putting a pillow over his face and pressing it very hard against his face.
It's all, yeah.
So hold on, like, let me actually look into that. That's something that I've often thought about is how the word cringe is used these days. Like before, I used to use cringe to describe like something like an eye roll, But whereas like where you just used it to describe cutting off a woman's tits and then putting it on a windshield. Now,
yeah, but that's an eye roll. That's still an eye roll.
Is it like why?
I just think it's like to me, whenever I was watching it, it just feels like what's something like fucked up that he could do here, but it doesn't feel fun. It like I mean like in a lot of context, a guy cutting off a girl's tits and putting on a windshield, it could be cool. But when it's Matt Dillon wearing a leather jacket and then like walking away, like yeah, I kind of just did that, just feels cringe. Like I was like, this is I cringed a little bit.
Huh?
I was like, oh. So
I mean, like, is it? Okay, so let me. I'm going to try to sort of stay really on topic here. Is it when you say it's not fun? Like, do you think it's important for violence in film to be like in service of the audience? Like, do you think is it important? Like, what do you think about like the rape scene in Irreversible, or like scenes of violence that are like actually supposed to be like hostile towards the audience, like be kind of harmful towards the audience. Like, do you think that's cringe, or do you think that's or that's across the board cringe, or do you think that there is some space for?
No, I think. Yeah, no, I think that there's space. I know what you're saying. I think that like, I don't think it's just an all boiling thing. I just think it's all entirely how a director handles something and the experience of what's going on. Like watching gratuitous violence for the sake of fun. I think that is something that can be fun. I think you see it with like Terrifier, it just being people getting mindlessly tortured or whatever. But I think in the way that he does it and films it, it's like almost funny. Like, I mean, it's almost like slapstick comedy, like how over the top it is and how crazy. And that doesn't diminish the violence that he captures, because Damien Leone or whatever, he he has such a great way of handling that stuff. Or even something like with the sadness, where it makes sense because it's people who are going deranged, you know, like the cross kind of thing. But it's like more so, I'm like, it feels pathetic. It feels kind of like pathetic, lazy, and sometimes like almost like meant for the like pleasure for the person making it. Like, have you ever seen the movie Megan is Missing?
No.
It's like a found footage movie all about a girl who's like chatting with this guy online, and then it accumulates to her getting kidnapped at the end, whatever. But at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, there's just like this uninterrupted, like 15-minute long rape scene that just leads to, basically, spoiler, she gets killed when she gets captured or whatever. But to me, I'm like, I don't like what else did I really get from that? Like, she's already been established that she's being tortured, all this other stuff, to where it feels like, did we need to see that kind of gratuitousness? Like, it didn't feel fun. It didn't feel like I really got anything out of it besides like me thinking that the guy just wanted to see somebody get, I guess, raped during that scene.
Yeah. Did you ever see The Accused with Jodie Foster? That movie where that movie's interesting because the whole thing. It starts with like Jodie Foster running out of a bar, like with her, you know, her clothes in tatters, crying, and then she goes and, basically the movie becomes sort of like this woman trying to report a rape to the police, and the point of the movie is like, oh, you know, like it's taking this woman so long to get any justice, and she finally finds a lawyer, and the whole time the cops are like, well, what were you wearing, and you know, saying shit like that, and it goes on and on and on, and it's a court movie, and then finally at the very end, they show the rape, like they show it, like, and it's to sort of, because the rape has the inciting incident has been abstracted into just sort of this idea, and that is kind of what it exists as throughout the film, and then at the very end, they show it in you know, about as much graphic detail as you could in, I don't know, 1984, 85, whenever the fuck the thing came out. No, later than that, maybe 88 or 89. And the point is to sort of, you know, hammer home the brutality of like what actually happened. You know, like what this actually is, what we're actually talking about. This is it.
Yeah.
You know, So I do see like this is not the best movie in the world. Like The Accused is hardly one of my favorite movies, but also
I think it's interesting though, if you're talking about, sorry to interrupt you, if you're talking about, if the whole movie is centered around like a rape case, and the whole thing is you're building it up, because even by that time too, the way people disassociate those horrible things through media and whatever else, or even like you become sensitized to it as well, to end the movie on that thing brings it all back in such a like, hey, like this is what it was, in case you forgot. Or like it re-empowers that kind of like actual tragedy that happened, to where like you don't also like feel desensitized to it. To me, I'm like, that's kind of a interesting way to go about it, or whatever. Sure. But I mean, I think anything can be done in service to it. Like, I know my wife she always gets upset by the Game of Thrones season, the first season, when Khal Drogo, he's like raping the dragon queen. Daenerys. Yeah. Daenerys. I mean, she's like, I don't know why they have to show that, because in the books it doesn't happen. But I'm like,
doesn't it?
To me, I don't think in the books. Apparently in the books, he was just falls immediately in love with her. But I'm like, but do you see how like now her taking power over this, and like her like winning him over in this thing? Like, yeah, it's a horrible thing, and it's like a representation of like what she's gonna have to endure every day of her fucking life. So instead, she like takes power of it and takes the thing that he's using to like put her down, and like she like empowers herself with it. Like I just thought that like that change, I thought made her situation also feel more fucked up, versus if she just would have gone into this like barbaric tribe, whatever, and then the guy's just like, fuck man, I love you, immediately. I don't think that there's as much growth in that. But
it says here, you know, from my cursory Google search, while it's true that in the books their first sexual encounter is technically consensual, Drogo assaults Daenerys repeatedly after their wedding night. The showrunners said that pushed them to change that scene. So, I mean, I'm not calling anyone a liar, But
my wife a liar.
Did you just call my wife a liar? Them's fighting words.
It's I don't know. That's just from that was just one time where I've had like not like an argument, but just more of a thought about just how people perceive that kind of stuff, or even movies too. Like a lot of like hard. I know we've talked about like the Hills Have Eyes remake from like 2004 or 2006 or whenever.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I was so shocked by that scene.
Oh, I love it. It's like this is what we like. Do you remember that time that we talked with Alexander, the Serbian film Alexander? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is something that I feel like this is why I connect with that guy so much and why I stay in touch with him is because I feel like he's one of the only other. I mean, I think Johnny's like that too. I think it's just kind of older guys. Like we just need to this kind of stuff. And this is really what that lost conversation that we had was about, was like, what's the value of this stuff? Like, you've termed it as gratuitousness. But I don't think it is. I think it's like sometimes you need to show people graphic violence in order to sort of make them have a visceral emotional reaction to something. And it's like, and it is in the context of a film, so it is safe. It's like, it's kind of like, you listen to the same kind of like weird music that I do, like, that has like, like excessively violent images on the album covers, sometimes even like autopsy photos and stuff, like a lot of this gore grind stuff and slamcore stuff. And I think that stuff is increasingly becoming more and more valuable because it's like, just as the beginning of this conversation, when we first started talking, just to how like censorship and like YouTube's terms of service seem to be kind of bleeding out and kind of shaping the way that we think and the way that we kind of consider sort of the media that we consume. It's like I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm not really sure why it's valuable. I just know that like it's kind of the last thing that we have that we can use to like rebel against these fucking tech companies that are essentially trying to round off everything at the corners and just kind of make everything so that they can reap the rewards of having the most robust user base on their fucking streaming site, like that, because that's what it's all about. It's just about like getting the most viewers. Or how do we get the most viewers? Well, we offend the least people. That's the name of the game. And I'm terrified of that because I think because all I care about in this life is just being able to make impactful art. And I feel right now we're drowning and we're just screaming and yelling and grabbing for anything. And the things that we're grabbing for are just like, graphic rape scenes and scenes of like ultra violence and just stupid shit that in 10 or 20 years ago we wouldn't have had to resort to such things. But like it's so bleak now. Anyways, I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. But please respond to that, please, Hunter.
No, I mean, I think you're right. It's a very, not optimistic, very pessimistic way of. It's hard to be optimistic with kind of how things are going now too. I was watching this interesting thing with Matt Damon talking about how why weird stuff doesn't get made anymore, and it's all just because of no one has to secure DVD sales. Yeah, exactly. I always thought that was really interesting.
That was on Hot Ones.
I think he said it multiple times. Maybe it was Hot Ones. I don't know. I thought I saw him I thought he was outside during the interview or something. I don't know. Right. All I know is but I thought that was just kind of a interesting thing of like, if people don't have that incentive to make money somewhere, even if it's out the back end off something, there's no way they're going to make anything crazy nowadays and stuff like that too. But it also sucks to feel like the only way that people can be shocked or feel like you can have that expression now or to stick it to the man is with those kind of with some of those crazy scenes. Because I think there's other ways to like make impactful art that isn't just like I want you to feel just viscerally disgusted or I want your stomach to turn. But
there absolutely are other ways.
The idea of it's the what.
I said there absolutely are other ways. What bothers me is just like how, we're being sort of herded in a direction. Like I'd just like to have the option, Like it's not. It's sort of like what it's kind of like. It's kind of like, hey, wear this fucking tracking tracking necklace wherever you go so that I know where you are all the time and make sure that you can't commit a crime. And it's like, well, you know, I don't want to wear that thing because it infringes upon my freedom. And it's like, well, if you're not committing a crime, then what do you have to worry about? You know, it's like that kind of mentality.
Right.
So that's what I don't like about it. I just would like to have the ability to do that. But really the solution is actually very simple. I mean, Matt Damon's talking about, I wanted to make a movie called, I don't know, like
some
the
Italian thing. I can remember the fucking
The Wedding Slipper, you know, like some movie called The Wedding Slipper. I don't know. I'll just make up some title. And it's a movie about a woman falling in love, you know, while with a guy who makes chocolate in the Alps, you know, and it's like, and no one's going to see this movie because it's not about fucking car chases and helicopter shit and whatever. And it's like, yeah, sure. Okay, I understand what you're saying, Matt Damon, but you also, to make The Wedding Slipper, you want like $60 million, you know? Hey, guess what? You could probably, you know, make back your fucking money if you did it for fucking, you know, $4 million, which, by the way, is a lot of fucking money. And, you know, a $4 million is like, for a production, I could do a fucking shit ton of stuff for $4 million. You don't need $60 million other than just to pay you and your fucking lame ass friends. I do think that, you know, it was nice when there was sort of like when you could have these huge big productions, you know, and you put all that money onto the screen and you have all these different locations and all this crazy shit going on and, you know, big like Ben-Hur moments and coliseums and all this kind of crap. But I mean, I feel like everything's over bloated. Like from my flirtations with like the Hollywood studio system, everyone's just overblowing these budgets and then just paying themselves. Like,
yeah, and you're probably fucking right. I don't know either. I don't know. It's all bullshit.
Let me ask you this. I know that you know, YouTube is your bread and butter, and but I also know that because you've told me that you have, you know, been branching out and kind of working like with your agency to kind of get into sort of more the mainstream television and film world. And yeah. I'm wondering if there's anything that you can share about that, or if anything, you know, is sort of on the horizon, or actually even your, you know, in reference to the previous little rant that I did, are there anything that you think is surprising or interesting about your flirtations with working with sort of the more mainstream legacy media?
No, it's terrible. I hate it. I'm mostly doing it just to diversify my things, because I feel like in any case, I think with anybody, I think even if you work in the industry or you don't, or you do online stuff, I think like you need to have a safety net, because everybody's just trying to pull the rug out from under you and everybody's looking after themselves. For me, it's just a way to diversify things. I also think that there's a nice side to it of collaboration that happens with legacy stuff, like working with other writers, working with other producers and stuff. And while it's annoying that there's that many notes and stuff, I like the idea that it's just such a different workload to YouTube. YouTube, it's just all, you have to just gun it as much as you can. It's never ending, never stopping. So it's just a different approach to this creative process that, you know, I don't expect really much to come of it. There's some things, I can't say what they are or whatever, but there are some things that are in motion right now that I think are cool, but until it is like live, until it's like people on Earth see it. Yeah. It's, at any time with other deals I've had, even it's like things get bought and then they'll throw it away. They'll scrap it. They'll do whatever they want. So I don't know. I'm in this place where I'm just trying to kind of set up the future for whatever means, you know. I don't think that I'm really not looking to like pivot into anything. I actually like YouTube. YouTube is a fucking annoying. It's a terrible, broken system, but at the same time, I love my job. I think it's cool. Or whatever.
You're good at it, man. Like you're like, you know, I actually am jealous of what you've been able to do, because one of the, you know, although you are dealing with this terms of service thing, which I keep kind of bringing up as like, you know, the end of all creativity. The truth is that like, if you can navigate around those things, which actually are quite easy to navigate around, especially if like you have a good understanding of what exactly they are, you actually are in a position to do whatever you want to do on your own terms and get rewarded very handsomely from it, you know? So, I mean, like, you're in a position right now. And here's another thing too. Let me gas you up a little bit. Here's another thing too, is that you're one of the very few guys on YouTube that's actually putting production value. Like I've you know, you motherfuckers aren't even ready for what's coming down the pike with what Hunter's doing. Yeah. I've seen some of the shit that he's kind of like got coming in terms of like just production value, in terms of sort of like how elaborate this motherfucker's about to get with his YouTube content. Other people don't fucking they take the money and they fucking spend it on watches, like that Canadian guy who stammers even worse than I do. What's his name? What's his name? ZPC or some shit?
Oh, XQC.
XQC, yeah. That guy's not fucking increasing his production value, you know? Like he's just buying watches and shit and showing them to people who hate on him. Whereas Hunter is taking it and he's putting it back in. You know what he's doing? He's following the ethos of the late Dave Brocky and like Guar, you know, like, oh, the more money we make, the bigger the show gets, the bigger the production gets. You know why? Because that's what this is all about. It's about making the cool shit, and it's about creating, just having the best party, having the best fucking show, having the coolest stuff, you know, because that's what's going to endure, and that's what people are going to remember, right? So I mean, that's hats off to you, Hunter, for you know, for still giving a fuck, really, and not being a cynical guy like fucking ZPC or whatever.
Yeah, it helps that I actually care. I mean, it's easy to just cash the money and stuff. And also too, it's a very odd game. The more produced you make your stuff, the more people disassociate humanity from it. So like the reason XQC has such a large fan base is, yes, he's very wealthy and he buys watches, but at the end of the day, he's just kind of like it's just him and his computer. There isn't a lot of it's an unfiltered view of this guy who has all the excess in the world, but still lives on the camera like a normal human being. And I think that people, the psychological aspects of how people consume media now is just crazy. Like, I mean, people just don't, if something is big and produced, sorry, the more this stuff is big and produced, the less that people are like, this is less about a social media thing and I'm watching more of a production. I don't like that.
Right.
It's the same with like,
it's in conflict with it's in conflict with the parasocial relationship. Like, like, oh, this guy's my friend. Like, oh,
the lies you tell yourself.
I think the only time that I ever fell into that was when I started listening, like in, I think 2018 or so, I started listening to Come Town, and that's, I really did feel the parasocial relationship there. I was like, oh, like, all right, I'm going to listen to my friends talk about, you know, shit, you know?
Yeah. It's impossible to not feel like you're like, it's a like evolutionary tap of your brain of feeling like a part of the tribe, or feeling like caring about this thing because these people give you things that you consume so much, especially like when you become a fan, like Come Town, where it's like you go back, you do the bits, or even doing the bits to your friends. It becomes a part of your nomenclature, how you're interacting with people. So it does feel important, but yeah, I think people just want that kind of like that authenticity. You know what I mean? So I think that I'd be curious. I think that like the stuff I'm going to do and produce it in a way, I'm trying to like get this balance of, I want it to be as conversational as my stuff is now on my second channel, and have it be like, fuck man, I just like turn on it's like very like, the biggest thing people say is I'm able to turn it on after work or while I'm driving, I put it on the background because it's easy to listen to. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you maintain that, but then just be like, holy fuck, that was just so fun to watch. Like, but it doesn't take away, it doesn't feel like you're watching a movie, because that's one thing that I found with a lot of younger people just don't like watching movies. Like series have become the big thing, binge watching series and having like way more content. But like now movies are like in this weird spot where they're like, it's only an hour and a half. And then also it's just like, it's longer than an episode of something that I would watch, but it's shorter than something that I want to get invested in. So it's like it's just fucking odd where people are at with it. So, but I don't know. It's it's weird, man. Especially because with my job too, like the views do matter, like how many people see it. Which I guess it's the same with directors, of how many people see your movie is dependent on your success. But with like YouTube, it's all perception based. You know, like if your videos don't get any fucking views, people will It's like being with like a dying animal or something, like a pack of like a wolf being. These people are like, I don't want to be with this fucking not cool channel. Like I feel like a loser. I'm not going to be like with this declining thing. So it's just how do you keep evolving and keep, I don't know, making things fun for people.
Yeah. And that's, it's tough too. Like you sort of touched on it there with this sort of idea of like passive entertainment. Like I can put it on in the background, you know? I mean, that's something that I've never aspired to be that, you know, like I would always want to be.
Oh, dude, it's the biggest insult. I don't think people really realize it either, but I'm like, you're not even watching this, like how much effort we put into like, making it fun to watch. And then people are like, yeah, just listen to the background.
Right.
You're like, oh, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. Like I mean, like for example, this show, this fucking podcast that I've been doing is designed to be as low effort as possible. That's why there's no video, and it's really I've kind of just been thinking of it as like a record. Like I want to be able to go back and when I have like, you know, let's say I have 50 of these, and I want to be able just to be kind of like, okay, so like what was being, because I do you know, plan I do plan on my career continuing to grow, and this to sort of just be kind of like, oh, okay, who am I and who am I talking to as the fucking shit goes? And I'm not really structuring it as like an interview show either. It's more just like the only people who I want to be talking to are my friends, and I want the conversations to feel just like people talking, not me. And you know, sometimes talking with your friends does sometimes feel like an interview, but like, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like it's before we go, because we have actually been talking for quite a while, but before we go, let's talk about one more movie. We can talk about you know, a movie of your choice. We can talk either about The Piano Teacher, or we can talk about Starship Troopers.
Piano Teacher's probably. I love Paul Verhoeven, but Piano Teacher just is always a fun conversation to have.
Okay, well let's try to keep it short, but you know, succinct, and try to say the things that we mean and that we care about. The Piano Teacher. I first heard about The Piano Teacher when I listened to like an old YouTube clip of Louis C.K. on the Opie and Anthony show, and he was talking about the first time that he had seen it. I think.
I've heard of that. I've heard the audio clip. It's so funny. Yeah.
And these guys are like he's explaining The Piano Teacher to like Opie and Anthony, and what's the name of that guy? Jim Norton. Jim Norton, that's right, Jimmy Norton. And they're just like, what the hell, Lou? What the hell are you watching? You know, oh my God, you know. And then and he's going off. He's like, oh, it's the best movie. And I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then so then I go and I watch the movie, and I'm just like, oh, this fucking guy. Because I think I had seen Funny Games at that point. That was something that, you know, you Funny Games is sort of like the entry point into watching Michael Haneke, because it's sort of like it gets grouped into sort of like these extreme films, like fucking Serbian film and whatever, like just these films that are just hard to watch. Like you have to endure these films because they're so difficult to kind of get through.
I think it's also one of his more straightforward movies.
That's true.
A lot of his other stuff is very. I mean, you're just kind of like, what the fuck? What is like going on? You know, or very spacey, like almost like you feel like nothing happens. Versus, it's easy getting from point A to point B when it's like people are being tortured.
Right.
You know, how much more can these people take until they're dead, or, you know, that kind of vibe. Because, Funny Games is the first one I saw, but it was the remake.
Yeah, I guess, like, the difference between Funny Games and his other films is that in Funny Games, like, the stakes are very obvious and right there on the table in front of you, as opposed to something like The Piano Teacher, where you have to kind of watch to figure out why you're watching. But, I mean, when you start to peel back the layers, or he starts to peel back the layers for you, like the first layer that gets peeled back maybe is like her cutting her vagina with a razor blade on the edge of the bathtub, and you're just kind of like, huh, okay, so she does that. And then, or even like, you know, like just even the fact that she sleeps in the same bed as her mom, that's very early on in the film. I mean, by the way, just to anyone listening out there, like, we're going to talk about this with full spoilers. So, go find The Piano Teacher and watch it, because it's one of my very favorite films. I think
it's his best. I think it's Michael Haneke at his best. Also, the performances too are just so good.
Yeah. It's
the main woman in it. It's interesting because I feel like compared to a lot of movies now, people might not. I think that it's still fucking crazy. Like when you list it on paper of some of the stuff that happens in the movie, and yeah, movies might go farther now, but the pacing of the movie is just so dreadful. Like I remember when I first watched it. You were telling me about it. I probably watched it for the first time a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It was whenever you were like, check out Piano Teacher.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I immediately was like, I feel like this is just because before that I'd obviously seen Black Swan, and I was like, this is I feel like he just stole all of Piano Teacher, but not even in a good way. Like the relationship, the weird, obscure relationship with the mom and stuff, and this obsession that she has, and all these different, it's so much better coming from a definitely middle-aged woman who is just it's just so much more pathetic, middle-aged woman who's just so bitter and such a perfect cunt this whole movie. Yeah. And she just lives with her mom, and you feel bad for her, but then there's you have these sways where you're just God, fuck this woman. Yeah. I feel bad for her. Oh my God, this dreadful person. And it just all accumulates so perfectly. It's just so good.
Yeah. And that's the thing about the character, who by the way is played by Isabelle Huppert. The thing about the character of Erica, I think is her name in the film, is just by complete accident, just by the circumstance of intense, rigorous piano training, and the particular temperament of her mother, and the relationship of her father, who I believe is dead. All of these sort of factors have kind of come together to create this perfect storm of a woman who is got this who's built a prison around herself, an emotional kind of prison. She's not able to connect with anybody, but at the same time, that's desperately what she needs. She needs to be able to. She wants connection so badly, but when she gets it, she can't even accept it, and she has to kind of try to control it, because the idea of losing it, or the idea of it kind of getting out of her control is actually the most terrifying thing in the world to her, and then what you have is just this fucking tragic situation where she meets this young fucking guy in the form
a savant.
Walter, I think, is the name of the character. After he's gone into her apartment and locked the mother in that room, and he rapes her on the floor, and then oh fuck, man! I gotta watch that movie again. It's such a great movie. Y'all gotta watch this movie, everybody. It's a good one.
It's also the first introduction I ever had to the Haneke ending, because Funny Games, it ends it's very much more traditional. People die. And then they move on to the next house. Yeah. But this is the introduction to the very classic Michael Haneke kind of just it's over. That's it. Whatever. Because in the Piano Teacher, it's this awesome scene where she grabs a knife and she's going to this big concert at the school, and you're like, oh shit, she's gonna fucking kill somebody. Because in this movie too, she's very petty. There's a girl who is supposed to be playing, and she's kind of she's just jealous because I think she was talking to the guy that she liked. So she breaks a fucking glass and puts the glass in her pockets and cuts up her hand so she can't play. So you're leading to this point where you're like, oh man, she's gonna go there and she's gonna fucking kill this guy. And then she kind of gets there. I think she stabs herself once for just to feel the pain, and then just the last shot of the movie is her just walking away. And then it just ends, and that's when I was like, oh my God. And it's kind of the I wouldn't say a non-ending, but you see it a lot in these movies like Cachet and then stuff where it's just this thrill ride, and almost at the end, whenever it ends, I'm always just like, oh, I wanted something to I want to have some kind of closure, or almost some other meaning behind this thing. Yeah, I think one of my favorite Haneke endings is I love Benny's Video. Yeah. I love that ending. I love the ending of this fucking little psychopath kid. Yeah, his family. That's why it'd be one of my favorite Haneke films too. Benny's Video is crazy. Yeah. Such a great movie. there's this fucking psychotic kid kills somebody, and then his parents go along with like sweeping it under the rug, and he just totally throws him under the bus. It's insane.
Yeah, it's such, and he does it with such like basically the parents have done everything on the condition that they just assume that he's on their side, and he'll reciprocate the work that they've done for him, and then in the end he just totally betrays them, with just a couple sentences. He's just like, they did it, and they killed a girl.
Yeah, it's almost emotionless.
Yeah,
it's like it's heartless. It's just so cold. That movie too that's one of those ones where it's hard. You talk about you don't like watching animal violence, and him keep repeating that video, and like the video of that animal dying I always found that very uncomfortable. Such an uncomfortable like replay, and the way this kid is observing violence, which is that's a big thing. I think Michael Haneke likes to touch on a lot, is like violence in media.
Sure, I mean it absolutely, and it's the way that there's a little bit of like a finger wagging that happens in funny games that is a little, for me, that's actually cringe. Like, just kind of like, dude, what are you doing? Relax,
Are you talking about the part where he like stops, like when they like rewind time or whatever, or which part are you talking about with that? Or do you just mean like
there's literally a part where the main character, the Benny's Video Kid, or Michael Pitt in the remake is like, is this what you want? Like, oh, this is what gets you off, isn't it? Like he's actually like looking at the viewer and like, and it's just like, this seems lame to me a little bit. I mean, I'll forgive it just because the rest of the movie is like so grueling, but like this little bit necessary? Like, if you didn't have this bit, I'd still get what you're doing with this film.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, just making it so on the nose like that. The part where he rewinds it, I like that part because
I do too.
It kind of like it shows that like, oh, so hey, it's me, the director. I'm not going to let you off the hook ever with this film. This is just a little reminder.
Well, to me, that's your finger wag scene. You know what I mean? Cut the other part and leave the rewind scene as like, you think there's redemption, and then he totally like lets the wind out of your sails again by being like, no, that's not what's gonna fucking happen. Yeah. And then that one chance where, because even in the moment you're like, oh my god, you've been fucking watching these people just get railed the entire time. So then when there's like a slight moment of victory, and it just almost immediately and magically gets just completely taken from them, is so cold, but I love it. You're like, like it's like a perfect moment.
To talk about the ending of Piano Teacher, because it's like so like, she's on the floor and she's just been raped, and she's just like, there's so much shit going on in her head, like shame and anger towards herself, and like hatred of herself and everything, and then also sort of this sort of idea of like, well, I fucking hate him so much, I'm gonna go get some revenge. So she goes and she goes to the concert, and she's actually supposed to play that evening because of the girl whose hand she injured with the glass in the pocket. And she goes and she's got the knife and she's waiting for that guy to show up. She's standing in the lobby, and then he shows up with like his family and everything, and he says he's saying hello to everybody, and then he just kind of walks by her, and this is her moment. It's time for when he comes and stands before me and talks with me as I would expect him to, I'm going to stab him with this knife. But he doesn't even do that. He just walks by. He's like, hey, what's up? And he Erica, what's up? How you doing? Yeah. And he goes up the stairs.
Almost like nothing happened. Like he didn't just do that horrible shit.
Yeah. Totally flippant. And what it is it just shows, it reinforces how little he actually cares about her, and how little he regards her, and how little he respects her. And then when she sees that, and she realizes, maybe I'm not the main character of this video game. Maybe I'm just a fucking NPC. Who gives a fuck what happens to me? And she just stabs herself. And then she walks off into the cold, and we just have that final shot with the stairs. Yeah, lingers, yeah. We know that there's a concert that she's supposed to play at, but she's not going to be present for it. But at the same time, it's like, you get the sense like, they'll probably figure out something.
It's a full auditorium of people who can play piano. Like they will find somebody to play. I always kind of pictured it when I first saw it. I thought that she stabbed herself because one, I thought that since she kind of realizes that the guy doesn't, like, he's not even thinking about her. She's just like so insignificant that she captures that feeling by stabbing herself, almost like to almost feel something. Even too, it just I like that representation, or that like that description you said of saying like, yeah, I'm not the main character or whatever. No one gives a shit, because I think before this point in the movie, it's just so over the top. Like, she's so dramatic with like just doing the most. She doesn't like ever just, also it's never anything, you know, just like a little crazy. She's so like operatic with it. I mean, like, she's going into like porno booths and like smelling cum rags, and she's cutting her fucking pussy up. She's doing all this stuff to where, when I think that it's like such an interesting thought, because she crescendos that to like, you're so insignificant that like I don't even care what happened. I think it just is like a very brutal moment of realization.
Yeah. If you're interested in seeing like, we talked very briefly about Paul Verhoeven. Paul Verhoeven made a film called Elle, starring Isabelle Huppert. And it in a sense, I think that it's sort of like a spiritual successor to The Piano Teacher. I mean, obviously it's a Paul Verhoeven film, but it is, the character is very similar. It's sort of like this ballbuster woman, and check this out. She's the CEO or some sort of high-ranking executive at a video game company, and they're trying to make this like video game. And she gets, very early on in the film, she's sexually assaulted. The film, like, kind of, I mean, it's not as good of a film as The Piano Teacher, but for someone who kind of wants to sort of see, like, you know, glimmers of that character again, and kind of maybe just explore something similar.
This is kind of new too. 2016. I didn't think it was going to be this new.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely worth watching. It's like I said, it's not as good as The Piano Teacher, but I mean, very few things are. I think that Elle is a very good film.
Yeah, I'll watch Elle tonight. I'm gonna make some dinner right now, and I'll put it on, because I have any excuse to get to watch a new Paul Verhoeven Paul Verhoeven movie. I will take the opportunity. I had a stroke right there. my calories are depleted. I need to nourish myself.
Longest episode yet, but I always love talking with you, Hunter. You're always a delight. Let's fucking do this again sometime. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.